doesn't matter what industry you're in, you have to master this art, and it's building leaders. So the question is, how do you build leaders? What does it take to build leaders? And can you build leaders? So when I got started in insurance, I myself thought I was a hard worker. I want to win. Am I a leader? Do I know how to lead other people? I've never led other people before. Now, maybe you've done sports, maybe you've done something, maybe you've been in management, but if you've never led other people before, you're asking, how do I lead other people? What do I need to do? So first, I had to learn how to do it. But then two, I had to learn how to teach that to people. Now, there is the teaching and passing on a skill, right? That's a teacher. But then how do you mentor people? What's the difference between a teacher and a mentor? And we created in our company 14 different points to building leaders. And what are the mindsets that it takes to build another person to become a leader? So let's jump into it. Again, you can use this for your family. You can use this in your business. You can use this in your church. You can use this in any aspect where you are developing other people. Number one, people need somebody to believe in them in good times and in bad times. All of us have had a failure in our life. And if somebody didn't sit there to process that failure with us, that could become a permanent failure and part of our identity. I remember one of the first fights I got into when I was a kid. I was small, right? I lost that fight. That stuck with me because I didn't have anybody to process that losing was a natural part of life and that you can get better at things. Same with sports. I didn't really have somebody to come alongside me, mentor me, coach me, process. Hey, how was practice? What did you do good? What did you do bad? And then give me feedback. There was no feedback. The coach was there, hey, do this, run laps. But nobody sat there to process how I could do better. And because of that, I had a low belief system. I didn't believe I could do something. I hoped, but I didn't believe that I could do it. I didn't understand the process of improvement. And so I had to, when I got into insurance, I found a mentor that started believing in me, and I understood, man, this person thinks I can do it. And sometimes human beings will borrow belief from somebody else. It could be their mom, dad, coach, mentor, a teacher. It sometimes only takes you and one other person to believe in you for you to start believing in yourself, to believe that you could do something big. And so in good times and in bad times, what does that mean? In a good time, it's very easy for somebody to believe in you because you're winning. Great job. Right? But is that same level of belief there when you're not doing good? Do they really believe in you, or do they only believe in you when you win? And so become the leader that believes in who that person is. What are their gifts? What are their talents? What's unique about them? Right? And all of us, we can all have aspects that other people share. Hey, you're kind, well, you're kind. You know, hey, you're very intelligent, you're intelligent. But there's the mix that makes that person, man, the way that you're kind and you're extremely intelligent but extremely kind, most of the time those two don't go together because you have high intellectual intelligence but you have low emotional intelligence. You actually have both. You could do something really big in your life. God's gifted you with that, right? Identifying that person's gift. If you as a leader can identify their gift and constantly sell them on why they're going to achieve, why they're going to be successful, why they're different, why they're special based on that belief system, you're going to have somebody that will run through walls for you because they know that you care about who they are as a person. Point number 2 I want to go through with you guys. People need somebody to have high expectations of them, okay? I recently had a conversation with a gentleman this morning, older gentleman, married, in church, and he says, hey, I can't make it to the training this morning that you guys had because I had a situation happen. And I asked him a question. I said, hey, if you were running an organization and you had 100 agents and you were given the training today, would you use that same excuse or would you be there? He says, no, I would be there. You know, I know that success requires, sacrifice. And I said, okay, now here's the challenge. Most of us think that we're going to make those sacrifices when we have those results. But that's not how life works out. If you don't treat the business that way from the very beginning, you'll never get what you want out of it. So I challenged him and I said, hey, you got to start treating the business that way now, not when you have it, because you'll never have it if you don't treat it that way now. He says, got it, won't happen again. Right? Thank you for the coaching. What happened there? There was a challenge. I could have been a low standard leader that just said, it's okay, he's missing training. Guess what? That is lazy on my aspect because it doesn't require energy. It's not being kind. Kindness isn't always allowing a person to do whatever they need to do. Kindness sometimes is imposing a higher standard on somebody. That's really how you're kind. Why? Well, that's not kind. You're pushing them. If you care about people, you're going to push them. You're not just going to let them fail and say, well, I let them do whatever they want to do, so I'm a great leader. You're not a great leader. I've been around great leaders. Great leaders are constantly imposing higher standards on those people that they're around. And from a person that's getting the leadership from that person, most of the time it's frustrating, it's annoying, but you know they're right. You know that there's truth in it. And if you know that that person cares about you, right, that they believe in you, then you're going to be able to take that challenge. So it's very important. You can't challenge people to a higher standards if you don't have a personal relationship and they don't know that you care. That's why there's 3 phases that you go through with people: a friend, a mentor, and a coach. I can't coach you if I've never built a friendship with you and we don't have a relationship in terms of mentorship where I'm adding value to you. So point number 2 is have high expectations for them. Point number 3, sell them the dream. A leader is constantly selling people on what they can do and what they can become, right? So point number 1 was sell them on who they are. But point number 3 is sell them on what they can do. Sell them on what they can achieve, right? Paint the picture for them, right? That movie, what's it going to be like when we're doing that, right? What's it going to be like? Yesterday, I shot a video for the guys and I sent it to them, and I'm asking them, what's your dream? Why are you willing to make these sacrifices? And I'm showing them this $20 million home here in Austin. And in the video, I'm saying, just imagine you're right there on your staircase and you're on a call and you're having a conversation with your best guy and you're telling them about how you got to $10, $12 million a year and they're at $300,000, $400,000 and you're pouring belief and they're like, man, thank you so much. Thank you, coach. Thank you. And I'm painting a picture for my guys of what they can accomplish. I'm selling them the dream. See, most of us are very logical. We only believe in the things that we can see. And if you're like me, maybe you haven't had a lot of success in life. Maybe you've never been exposed to, movie sets and mansions and private jets and, doing big things and leadership and making big money and being around successful people, whether that's presidents or governors or athletes or entertainers. And it's like, man, that world is so far away from me. And that's how I felt. I remember one time somebody said, my mentor said, you could be the president of the United States if you wanted to. I'm like, man, I don't even know if I can make $100,000 a year. But he sold me on this identity. He says, it just comes down if you want it as bad as that other person. And when you're around people like that and then you see them achieving, you start to believe that you can achieve that as well if you're willing to do the work. See, we all need an example of somebody that's doing it sometimes for us to believe so that we can do it, so that we can become that belief to somebody else. And so sell them the dream on what they can accomplish. Number 4, be a crusader, build crusaders, which means, man, sell out to whatever you're doing. Be obsessed on what you're doing. Most people never have an example of a person that's obsessed and that's sold out. When you think about the word crusade, right? And you think about any kind of crusade, any kind of mission, right? Leading that crusade. If it's Martin Luther King Jr., if it's a president, if it is a nonprofit, right? If it is a person that really has a pastor, right? If it's a CEO running their company, man, they're on a crusade. They're on a crusade to go build that. They're on a crusade to go create change. That person is obsessed. That person is, they're nonstop. It's like, recently I interviewed Vivek and I asked him a question. I was like, how are you everywhere all the time and not burn out? You did more than a lot of other people did on this campaign. What did you do? And in there he says, when you find your purpose, when something is bigger than you, right? You don't burn out because you really are a believer in what you're doing. So you got to find things that you believe. And that's the hard work. That's the work that I'm doing. What are your true core convictions that you would die for, that you would stand up for, that nobody could change your mind on? What do you believe that much in? What do you think is that important, right? That's your crusade. So once you find that, then you're going to build other people to support that dream, that vision, that crusade. But you need a crusade first. You can't go get people to chase something unless you're chasing something, right? They say the speed of the leader determines the speed of the pack. So what's your personal crusade? And then are you building other people with their own dreams and goals, but that are also believers in your mission and your purpose to come alongside you to contribute to that? Because you can't build something big by yourself. This whole idea of, I'm going to make it to the top, I don't need other people, that's so much nonsense. Everybody needs other people that are going to buy into them and buy into their dream and buy into their vision. And people always buy into you before they buy into whatever it is that you're doing. Point number 5, raise your people's spirits. Always bring positive news. Always bring encouragement. Always provide a different perspective, right? When people are going through challenges, oftentimes they just need a paradigm shift. They just need somebody to change the way that they're analyzing the situation. I remember I'm stressed out and I'm on a call and I'm like, man, just things aren't going right. And the person says, hey, George, can I just challenge you real quick? Dude, we're so blessed. We live in the greatest country in the world. We're in the greatest industry. Look at everything you've done. Look at what you've done for your parents. Look at the kind of leaders that you've built. Look at the income that you're making. Look at your lifestyle. Do you remember what it was like when you were 18? Do you remember those worries where you just couldn't even get a credit card? You couldn't even get Best Buy to finance you a laptop, and your computer was breaking down, and you were struggling on your cell phone bill, and you couldn't make the card. Do you remember those times? Look at where you are today, man. Look at the kind of person you're becoming. And they encouraged me. They brought a different perspective, right? And all of a sudden, that stress and that anxiety, people can get lost up here, guys. That stress, that anxiety was like, dude, you're just thinking too much. Let's just go work, man. Just trust the process again. Just go do your best. Find peace in giving your very best. Things are going to work out, man, right? So that part of it on raising your people's spirits, there's so many ways to do that. Maybe it's taking them to church with you. We invite guys to church all the time. Maybe that's spending time. Maybe that's going to work out with your guys. Maybe that's sharing a movie. Maybe it's going to watch a movie together as a team. Right? We've done that many times with the guys where we've actually rented a theater, shut down the theater, and went to watch a movie with the guys. And to kick off the year, January 1st, we did that. And it was a movie on leadership. And so, what are you doing to raise your people's spirits? Maybe it's affirmations. Maybe it's books. Maybe you're reading out of a book. Maybe you're sharing a podcast. But there's so many great things that we can do to create paradigm shifts for people to put them in the right spirit, because people get stuck up here, and that's when performance comes down. Number 6, tactfully challenge negative attitudes. There is sometimes a spirit of negativity, a spirit of victimhoodness, a spirit of excuses, a spirit of procrastination, right, that can take place in your organization if you don't address it from the very, very beginning. I'll catch one of my guys and I'll say, hey, man, I notice your attitude. You're off right now. What's going on? Are you okay? Right? Are you going on? Because, you're a leader here. You set an example for people. When you walk in a meeting and your energy is low, guess what that does to everybody else? They all look up to you. So it brings down the energy in the room. Does that make sense? So you got to walk in and you got to understand that whatever you're going on in life, we understand. I'm here to process it with you if you need help, right? But you need to leave that outside, compartmentalize it. Let's deal with it. Let's find the time. Let's actually process it. Let's deal with it. Let's come up with the solution. I'm not the leader who's like, it doesn't matter. Just neglect it. No. That's affecting that person. Let's find. Is it something you need to change the way you think? Is it something you need to change the way you do? But right now is not the time to do it in this meeting right now. I've had to challenge that where it's privately, right? I've had to also challenge it publicly where a leader will do something, it's not acceptable, and then everybody else, if you don't call that out on the spot, everybody else thinks that that's okay, right? Or coming in late or whatever it may be. You got to challenge that. Hey, that mentality right there, we recently had a Monday morning leadership meeting, and we were talking about, we had 2 options. 1, be solution oriented, figure this thing out, raise the standards, challenge people. 2, it was to contract and do something smaller, more comfortable. And one of the leaders immediately responded. They said, yeah, let's just do what's more comfortable. And they didn't say the word comfortable, but they're like, let's go. And they chose a comfortable option. I posed the question in a way for people to hopefully choose the higher standard. And when they answered that way, I said, that's small thinking right there. And you just chose what was convenient instead of growing. That's not what leadership is, because that person immediately chose small thinking. So you have to challenge these things privately, publicly, but you got to do it in a way where it's not disrespectful to a person. I used to do that. I used to, unconsciously be an accidental diminisher. And I would say it in a tone. Oftentimes it's the tone, right? They say body language, 55% is body language, 38% is tone, 7% is content. My body language, my facial expressions, my tonality was aggressive. And I realized, man, you're not getting the best out of people by being this way. It was because I didn't have emotional control over my feelings, my thoughts. So I've learned how to do that. As you mature, you become a better communicator with people, where you can give the right message in a way that it's also more welcome, more appreciated. And then that person ends up saying, man, thanks so much for addressing it with me the way that you did. I was expecting something different, and I really respect and appreciate the way you spoke to me like that. I want to be better. And you'll actually get a much better response from people if you could do it that way. Number 7, when do you start doing this? Like maybe you're like, man, I've never done any of these things. We have a bunch of low standards. Guess what? Start now. Maybe you're just starting a business. The best time to start is from the very beginning. But you start today. You start right now. And people, and here's the most important thing, do you model what you're asking other people to do? If you model what you're asking other people to do consistently for a period of time, you can then expect other people to follow your example. We have 2 things that a leader owes their agency, their guys here in our business. And it's 1, you owe the person an opportunity. Share what you do, give them a chance to change their life. But 2, you owe them an example. And if you are that example and you're consistent in that example, you can't call people out. If you're up, down, this doesn't work. If you sometimes call it out and you sometimes don't call it out, this doesn't work. But if you set that example and you lead from the front, and then 2, you call it out all the time, you challenge all the time, you raise the spirits all the time, you encourage all the time, you believe all the time, right? You recognize all the time, then you're going to build a massive organization. It doesn't matter what you're in. If something's growing, there is somebody that's a leader in that organization driving, building other people. That's what leaders do. So if you haven't done it, guess what? Start with yourself, and then 30 days from now, once you've modeled it, say, hey guys, here's what I've done the last 30 days. I don't know if you've noticed. Most people at that point would say, yeah, absolutely, I've noticed. I could tell the difference. I could sense it. I see the energy. I see the way when you're talking, you're always adding value, so I know you're reading. Man, I could tell you're working out. Man, I could tell that you're more patient. Man, I could tell you're really thinking more. You're preparing more. Every Monday's been amazing. People will notice the difference. Then you can ask them to change as well. Point number 8, become a system master. There was a book we read called Principles by Ray Dalio, and he talked about how he went through history and he analyzed every time that something happened in the market, what would follow, right? Every time the interest rates were high, what would follow? Every time interest rates went down, what would follow? Every time the interest rates were high but spending was high, every time interest rates were high but spending was low, every time unemployment was high and spending was high, every time, and he analyzed all these things and he said, okay, every time that there was a war, every time that this has happened, every time that, depending on who's in the White House, hey, every time, and he analyzed all these situations and he created a system, an investment system for every single situation. And so when we say become a system master, it means that for everything you're doing, there's a system for how you do it. There's a standard for how you do it. There's a time frame for how you do it. There's a sequence for how you do it, how you process, right? How you handle conflict, right? How you create a schedule, how you run your calendar, how you communicate, how you sell, how you process, how you handle conflict, all these things, compensation, how compensate, everything that you do, there's a system for how you do it. And so become a system master, get obsessed. People cannot duplicate personality. I can't be like you, you can't be like me. But we can copy a system if that system's in place. And the annoying part is creating the system, right? It's setting down the track, but once that track is set, man, you can run as many loads as you want to across that. You can run as many trains, as many cars. The freeway takes forever to build, but once it's there, man, millions and millions and millions of cars can go through that. So once you create your system, again, this is what most don't do. Most won't create the system. They'll stop and they're like, that's going to take too much time. Let me just do it this way. And they go back to just doing it that way or doing it a lower standard, and then they never build something big. Why? It takes more to build something big. But if you're willing to do that, then other people are going to be able to duplicate your process. They're going to know what you expect. They're going to know how to do it. And eventually you can get out of that area of whatever you're doing so that you can move into another area to improve that. And if you keep doing that, you keep improving systems and developing leaders, you're going to build something that's massive. Let me give you the next point here. Challenge the team to compete. If you want to build leaders, leaders are people that have high belief systems of work ethic, completion, consistency. They don't make excuses. And that's what it takes for you to be able to compete. You got to outwork, right? You got to outlast. You got to out-improve. and you got to out-strategize other people. And so that mentality, that's a competitive mentality. So if you look at why would we watch a basketball game if there wasn't a scoreboard? Why would we watch the Super Bowl if there wasn't a scoreboard, right? If they're like, well, hey, guess what? You all played really well. That was the whole time. Blow the whistle. Done. Everybody go home. Nobody would watch those games. There has to be a winner. That fight, that battle, that's been around since human history. Okay? Since human history, competition is there. When there is no competition, what a boring environment. I didn't understand that because I didn't come from sports, guys. So I had the hardest time with this area of competition. It didn't make sense to me. I'm like, why would I have to compete against somebody? Why don't you just work hard? If you have a goal and a dream, why don't you just work hard? And I didn't understand that, man, that competition, that aspect of competing, it brings out the best. It gets you to do more when you would like, man, I'm going to go home. You know what? I'm going to do an extra hour, right? Man, I wonder what he's doing. I wonder what she's doing. I wonder what they're doing. Man, we got to win. Man, look at where they are. Man, they went up 1. We got to go up 2. Man, look at where they are. Like that gets you to do more. And that spirit gets people to be thinking and studying. What are other people doing? That spirit gets you to be more consistent during seasons when most people are off. Right? That off season, right? That off season is people's separation season. Because a competitor, when it's off season, they're separating. They know everybody else is going to be casual. I know that because I used to be off season George, right? And now I understand that there is no such thing as seasons. There's just all the time. But you got to develop that mentality in people. They got to see that frustration, right? Frustration is the fertilizer to success. So if they don't see you frustrated, if they don't see you always trying to get better, and competition doesn't have to always be about beating somebody else. It could be, man, we haven't gotten better. Look at us versus us. Yesterday, I did an update video for our agency, and I showed them these 52 days of the year, 54 days of the year, 53 days of the year, 54 days of the year. I said these 54 days of the year, this year, versus these 54 days last year, same time frame. Which of you was hungrier? Is 2024 hungrier than 2023? Or was 2023 hungrier than 2024? I've been the person where 2023 was a better version than 2024. I no longer accept that from myself anymore. There's no longer up, down. We can have, hey, you know what? We dropped the ball. Okay, let's get back on that. But look, we've increased this because we're not off. There is no such thing as off anymore. And I used to listen to that and I would say, man, I never want that person's life. That person has a better life because they've learned. There's a limiting belief. I can't be on all the time and have fun all the time and work out and have a great life and have fun with my friends and travel the world. And you can do all these things. But so many people have sold us that you can't be on and build something great and have fun. And so what do most people do? They work for 40 hours a week and then they're off the other 128 hours that week. Why? Because that's how they think. But if you're really building a life, you understand that your entire week, your entire day, morning, you should always be progressing towards the life that you're building. There is no such thing as an off moment, and there isn't such thing as an on moment. There's just where's your focus at that moment. So teach your guys to compete. Next one, identify the doers and separate them. People that are absolute studs don't want to be treated like a dud. They want to know, man, you see, there's VIP and then there's everybody else. Hey, you see, there's a number 1 and then there's the top 5, top 10. But number 1 is different than top 10. Top 10, if number 1 and top 10 are the same, you're not going to build an environment where somebody wants to be your number 1. I know that because I made that mistake. I've made that mistake where I tried to incorporate everybody and I didn't separate that person. But that number 1 person, they want preferential treatment. They want the VIP suite. They want the front row. They want the gourmet food. They want the first class flight. They want the spa treatment. They want the elite private meetings. They want the private cigar bars. They want the nice shopping. Maybe it's different for them. Maybe, maybe they're more of a gift person. Maybe they like, jewelry. Maybe they like clothes. Maybe they like food. Maybe they like experiences. Maybe they like travel. But you got to know what your people like, and then you got to treat them that way. You got to separate who's number 1, who's number 2. How do you praise them? How do you edify? How do you talk about that person in front of them, behind their back, in a positive way where you're, man, do you know what such and such? They're freaking killing it right now. And then it gets back to them like, man, George was just talking about you the other day, nonstop, right? So do you have a clear number 1? I love the example that I got in this area because it wasn't based on personality and preference. It was based on performance. So if you performed, it didn't matter if 6 months ago you were not number 1. We're not recognizing the number 1 guy from 6 months ago today. We're recognizing number 1 today. And if you have that mentality, that's a fair system where everybody understands that as long as you perform, you're going to get that preferential treatment. It's not based on favoritism, it's based on position. You go be the number one position and watch what happens to you. So separate your guys, identify your guys, separate them, treat them different, private meetings, private conversations, private leadership, private one-on-ones. You got to do that if you want to build leaders. Next one, have your team experience different environments. We've gone to private colleges where they were having a workshop and Ben Shapiro was going to be speaking, and we've taken our guys there. We've gone VIP front row seats at games and concerts. We've gone to different workshops and conventions and conferences. So put your people in that environment. Recently, we went to Valuetainment Studios and we did our PHP Gala, and then we had a Super Bowl, and the guys were there, and we rented this a beautiful home, and then we took the guys to the beach, and we're running on the water, and we're working out. And some of these guys have never been to Miami whatsoever in their life. They've never been to the beach. They've never had that experience. They've never flown somewhere. We recently rented I want to say it was an $8 million home, and we took our guys there, and we had a 2-day mastermind session, 2.5-day mastermind session, hung out, sick. After that, we took the guys to Nobu, just the top guys, and we spent $2,000, $1,800, $1,900 on a bill with 8 people just having a conversation about vision and dream. Put people in that environment. We've rented an $18 million home in San Diego and took our guys there. We had a mastermind. Cabins in Big Bear, houses in Aspen. We've taken our guys to Aspen and taken them skiing and snowboarding. And then one of the trips we did, oh my goodness, this was sick. We get on this carriage. We drive up all the way to the top of the hill. There's no cell phone service. There's a moose walking in front of us. And then we get to this cabin, and we get on a carriage, a horse-drawn carriage. There's no lights. You're in the middle of the mountains, and it's snowing, by the way. So the flakes are coming down. And we're riding in this horse carriage to this private restaurant at the top of the hill, and there's this massive fire when you come in. And we had this amazing 3-hour dinner, 2-hour dinner, just sick experiences. Show people these experiences. We recently took one of our guys to drive a Ferrari and race it around the track in Vegas and shocked him and blindfolded him. Give people experiences. They're never going to forget it, guys. Most leaders are so cheap, they don't want to create this environment for their people. And then you wonder why you don't have that level of loyalty or that followership that you want. Treat people, invest in people. It's the greatest investment you can make is into yourself, God, and people. Last couple points, guys. Expose them to big thinkers. Expose them to big thinkers. Put them around other big thinkers. When I'm talking to my guys, and I'm saying you're going to be around guys that are making 20 grand, 30 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, 200 grand a month, I want you to be around them. I want you to be around PBD. While we're at Valuetainment Studios, Pat says, hey, can you grab Pelayo? Come back. I want him to meet Roger Stone, right? That for me is like, man, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to Pat because he's thinking about George in that moment. Why? He doesn't have to. He's in the back room, cigar, the boardroom at Valuetainment Studios, and he's back there, and the Super Bowl's on, and he's got other people and family and kids and everything. Why is he thinking about me? Because that's what leaders do, man. I'm so grateful for that man. He changed my life. When you expose people to other leaders, it changes their identity, and they start to realize, you know what, this person's human. Man, this person's real down to earth. Man, this person's really smart. Wow, that's how they think. Oh, wow, that's okay, that's their story. Man, okay, I think I could do this. And you start getting around these environments, and you start believing, I think I could do this. I think I belong in places like this. That's what happened to me. I remember going on a private bus tour to this gentleman's house that was worth probably $30, $40 million at the time. And I'm at his house, and we're eating, and we're doing a workshop, and I'm just looking at this. I'm saying, maybe one day this could be my life. I remember going to other masterminds like that. I remember going to the top of one of the buildings in San Francisco, and we're at the very top, and I'm seeing helicopters fly, and security has to take you up there. And I was invited to this meeting because Pat thought that I was somebody that could do something big in life. That changed this guy's thinking. Exposing people to these experiences changes their life. They start to believe that they can win. They start to believe that they can become leaders. And lastly, point number 14, talk to them and deal with character issues, if any. I've been talking to all our leaders, and these are guys that are great business people. And I say, I just want you to understand this. The whole foundation of your entire life is built on your character. Now, I was a young single guy that loved to party, go out, bottle service, club, dance, salsa nights. Like Monday night, I'd leave the office, and after Monday night, I'd be at the salsa club because that's when like the real dancers went to dance salsa, not to hook up. Sometimes when you're younger, you just kind of want to have fun, but then down the road, you're paying the price because you had that fun, and I didn't want to pay that price, so I paid the price. And so I love to have a good time. I don't judge people for where they are. I thank God I wasn't judged, that God gives forgiveness and grace, that Pat gave me forgiveness and grace. So I do not judge people, but that doesn't mean that we accept things that are unacceptable, that we don't call it out. Well, they're my number one guy, so let me not talk about the fact that they're, doing something fraudulent. No, we're going to address that. We're going to address it. We're going to find a solution. We're going to talk about it. We don't accept it. If something goes wrong, we address it as an office. We address it as a team so that everybody knows we do not tolerate this. We don't expect perfection. We believe in progress. Okay? I was raised that it's got to be perfect. You got to do it right. That's an unrealistic environment, and it creates so much fear and so much anxiety versus, hey, you know what? You made the mistake. What could you have done? How could you have done this better? Let's process it, right? I've learned how to have those conversations now. I'm going to have those conversations with my son when he can understand what I'm saying, because right now we don't understand each other. But man, the ability for somebody to love you while they lead you, but not be easy on you and call out your excuses and call out character issues, that's such a rare person that if you ever come across somebody like that in your life, that's an example of what they're trying to help you develop, and they love you enough to tell you the truth, to give you real feedback, value that relationship. Because you can go through your whole life and you're not going to find that many people that are leaders, they care about you, and will invest into calling you out on your BS. Those are real friends. Those are real leaders. So when you're processing all these different points, right, maybe you're going to add your own point. Put it in the comments below. Is there something you do specifically to develop leaders that maybe I didn't talk about? I learn from the comments, okay? Positive comments, negative comments. So put it in the comments below. What do you do to develop leaders? If you are a leader, what does somebody do to develop you, right? I would love to connect with you. If you're a leader in a different organization, I would love to connect with you because I think leaders need leaders as well. This morning I had a 9 o'clock call with a leader in a same industry but completely different organization, and we're sharing value to each other. Yes, we're competitors, but at the end of the day, there's an unlimited market here. How do we get better? How do we add value? That's a real friendship, And these are rare things to find in life. So hope this added value to you. Go back, study the points. Don't beat yourself up if you're not doing all of these. Find out how you can get better. You're not getting on here so you can validate your perfection. You're getting on here so that you can find areas of how you can get better. That's what life's about, guys. Please share your comments below. If you found value, subscribe in the channel, share it with somebody else, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care.